One of the things that was said to me when I was actually still in high school, which is in the early 1990s, was that my accounting professor actually told me he didn't ever think that I would actually be an accountant, which was very discouraging to me at that time. It was my senior year. I remember very clearly the day that he told me that, and the reason was just because I was a female. He didn't think that I would be able to handle the position of an accountant. So I remember going home that night, and I remember talking to my mom a little bit, who she actually has her own business and has been a great source of inspiration to me. And she just said, well, you need to do what you need to do. And so from that, I found the inspiration to go ahead and go into accounting and a business major and devote my life and my career to being the best accountant and CFO that I could be.
I would say maybe not so much hindered my dreams, but things that were said to me in work environments that were disappointing. And sometimes that was disappointing in the moment, and sometimes it was disappointing after the fact. I can sit here today and think of samples of things that were said to me by executives or colleagues and think, wow, that really shouldn't have happened, or that shouldn't have been said. But on the backside of it, I'm very proud of how I was able to navigate that and still get to where I was going, being as respectful as I could in those moments, but also not taking it either.
Well, I will tell you that as a senior in high school, an area where it may have been that I could second guess myself. My high school guidance counselor, I was a graduating senior. So my guidance counselor is a person of authority. And she knows the successes and likelihood of success of students. She told me that I shouldn't go to college, that I should probably, maybe pursue a beauty license. Okay, now my mom had her beauty license. Now I will go to a stylist, and I will go to a beautician, I will go to a cosmetologist, because they are the professionals. But there was nothing in my aptitude or in my path, in my transcripts, that would indicate that I would be a success there.
Yes, also as growing up, while I was growing up in Nigeria, to an extent, I was told sometimes I was a tomboy. And I would like to play sports, whatever I could, not professionally or on competitive level, but just to play around. And I was told sometimes, you're a girl, you can't do that. I've heard that a lot. And going to medical school, to an extent, I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I always said that from when I was a young girl. What I heard a lot was, nobody in your family is a doctor. I'm the first doctor from my family, and why do you want to do that? But the good thing was it wasn't from my family, because my parents were both educators, and so they let me do what I wanted. They knew what I was good at and what they guided me towards where I wanted to be, and I think that helped me, that I didn't think about what, the negative things I heard about it.
I had someone very close to me say some things that really made me consider my dreams as moving up in the corporate ladder. So the story of, I was talking about my niece who was in the armed forces, and I was talking to my stepson, who at the time was probably in his teens. He was about 14 years old. And I was talking about the fact that she was in the Navy. And he said, oh, well, what does she do? Is she a nurse or a secretary? And I said, she's on the front line. She's active in the military. And he said, but she's a woman. She can't be active in the military. She can only be a nurse or a secretary. And I said, that's not true. She's literally active. She's not a nurse or a secretary. And he was taught outside of our home. We don't even know where he learned those things, but he was taught outside of our home that women couldn't be anything but a nurse or a secretary.
It's such a stereotypically men's business, the auto business. And there are ways that you can conduct yourself, and I think if there's younger people under me or other women under me, that you don't victimize yourself before you even, get a chance to show your talents.
In the early years, there were so many obstacles finding daycare, paying for daycare because it's so expensive, balancing wanting to move forward in my career as well as taking good care of my son.
There were some things that hindered my dreams because in the beginning, remember, I took the scenic route. I graduated from high school and I thought I was grown. So I didn't know where exactly I wanted to land. But it was through the encouragement of some women and the encouragement of some men that said you could do this. However, I always second-guessed myself, or I always thought about, what could I do? Could I be a teacher? Should I be a principal? I just wasn't sure until I was hired at Purdue University. Calumet is Purdue Northwest now. So even though there were setbacks and even though I felt that I second-guessed myself and I wasn't sure, there were some women like Sue, who's a white woman, which, let me put a pin in that. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It doesn't matter your background. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. And she held my hand and encouraged me to take classes as a 26-year-old with 2 young children. So I started taking part-time classes. So I'm thankful that even though there were times where I felt I'm not going to make it, even though there were times in the community and people surrounding me that were saying, you may not make it, I still had a few people I had more cheerleaders on the side saying, you can do this.